Are you ready to thrive? It is time to take action. Hello, everyone. This is Jen, and you are listening to Thrive by Jen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. What is the result of thriving? Body confidence, mind fulfillment, and soul synchronicity. Tune in to hear about these elements and the scientifically and spiritually proven action steps to stand in confidence, love from within, be unstoppable in fulfilling your dreams, and create synchronicity so you can flow toward abundance and love. Hear real stories that will inspire you to take action today and be a catalyst for positive change in this world through creating your own Thrive life. Let's do this. Feel empowered and ignite your soul with Thrive by Jen Radio starting now. Hey, good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. I know I say this every week, but I'm super excited to be here this week and talking with somebody who, in the past, has inspired me. We kind of have I guess we sort of have like a secret relationship, Michelle and I, on social media, where we pay attention to what each other is doing, and just somebody who has secretly inspired me for a while now. And just recently, just within the past week, Michelle wrote this article that just hit home and kind of got me thinking about things that I've gone through, and I know people who I've either coached or friends and family that they've gone through as well. And so when I was thinking about this week's show, the whole topic of inner and external beauty, um, you came to be. And then I just was like, I just need to have Michelle on here. So, because her piece that she wrote was so eloquently done and just really hit home, and I know can inspire so many others. So I want to give a huge welcome to my friend Michelle Huff, who like wrote this incredible piece that you can find if everybody wants to go to elephantjournal.com. It's about inner and external beauty. So I'm kind of gonna jump right in, Michelle, and give you a huge welcome and say thanks for being here. Because I said to Michelle, I called her up last minute, and I was like, I my thought was I can't do this conversation justice without really having you here to inspire so many others. So thank you for
Thank
hopping on and
you.
doing
I'm
this.
so honored. I'm very honored to be on your show.
I'm so excited. So let's dive right in. I want to give us a little background about you wrote this incredible piece, and I'll fast forward. Just the focus is we have inner beauty, external beauty. We live in a society now that external beauty is a- totally, I feel, out of whack, and has gone so far, um, such a
Mhm.
degree of disservice for all of us, and for our emotions of what we've done as far as putting a priority on what we look like from the outside.
Right.
But share with us, take us back to give us a little bit of your story and what happened.
Okay. So my story that's in this article that you're
Hmm.
speaking of, and the part that relates to external beauty is that I have permanent nerve damage on the left side of my face. So I have three cranial nerves which are damaged, and the facial nerve is damaged. So if I smile, it's kind of down here, which just doesn't seem like a big deal, honestly, but it's something that made me think a lot about external appearance over the years and how attached we get to our image of how we think others see us. That's really what it is. It's how we think other people see us. And so now, like you mentioned, that there's such a focus on external beauty because we have a selfie culture. So we
Hmm.
see on social media all these people, and you just like
Yeah, yeah.
in the camera. And I think that can be a wonderful thing, and it can help people build up, their courage and maybe a part of their self-esteem. But it's overemphasized now,
Mm.
and that was I had to come to terms when I got my nerve damage. It was 12 years ago. I was pregnant and I had Lyme at the end of my pregnancy. So it was a very difficult end to the pregnancy and delivery. And then I thought that I would completely recover,
Mm,
but I didn't. And, as so many people experience, our bodies are, subject to change. Everything's changing all the time in our body and around us. And so that was a realization for me that, I don't have to identify with how my body looks or how I think my body looks to other people. And you're a coach and you help people get healthy and you help them work out and get fit. And I've been teaching yoga for a while and that's similar.
mhm.
But I think if we can always come back to that truth of really what our identity is and get grounded in who we are as a
Yeah.
soul rather than what we look like, that's a gift. And so that's really why I wrote about my story, is just because I thought it might help people going through similar things or people who are just looking to find um, something beyond that, something beyond the appearance. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you're spot on with, um, I mean, we go through this daily. I don't know if it for me, and I always am personal in my conversation. I go, this is something that impacts me daily. So whether it's to a great degree on depending upon what's going on in my life or what's going on with me physically, or to, where it's a split second thought, right? That goes through. But this is, what I also love about your story is that this happened 12 years ago, and 12 years ago our society has changed a lot in a very short right, in a very short period of time. So this has been for I felt reading this is ongoing
Mm-hmm.
for you, and so share with me a little bit about that because that's, I don't for I guess, one of the things that resonated with me was that and even in my history of coaching is I think we think that we get over a hurdle and then that's it.
Right.
And then it's the right problem solved when just being very transparent is I'll deal with self-image and internet external beauty, like I said, on a daily basis.
Right. Of course.
So
Right.
how has that been for you with this, us as a society changing in this
Mhm.
12-year journey?
So in some ways, it is it's probably more difficult for me than it would have been had we not had this whole trend towards the selfie culture. But and like the Instagram yoga and the all
Yeah.
the and the the multi-level marketing beauty products, and some of those things can be really great. But I think that I had to come to terms with seeing that a
Mhm.
lot, and also how I feel in photos, even family photos, or going out with friends and everyone wants to take a photo and post it on social media. Um, that actually forced me to confront my issue with my appearance changing more than I probably would have had to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good point. And you mentioned that everyone thinks that you go through something and then you're just over it.
Mhm.
People want to have that belief about most any type of loss,
Mhm.
right? And but as you know that if you lose something or if you lose someone or something changes in your life, you go through a period that's very very difficult, and then you get better and it gets better day by day. But it's never going to go away.
Mm.
That's always going to be a part of your experience and who you are. So it's what we do with that day to day,
Mhm.
right? And
Yes.
yeah, and so yeah, so I write in my article about impermanence.
I
Nothing is
know.
permanent.
I love that.
So it's really difficult to get comfortable with that as a human
Yeah.
being.
Yeah. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
so and that's why I want everybody to read this article, but that was so gosh, you for me really hit home with that, and I guess what I needed was for you to name it.
Mhm.
Like, you gave it a name for me, and so in Michelle's article, what we're talking about is that our physical appearance is fluid. It's
Yeah.
not permanent. It's always changing. And that was when I read that, I don't know. I just it really I was like, I was like, yes, like and then this morning, what reminded me of what you wrote was I'd read something that said, be like water, where we're
Mm-hmm.
fluid. And so talk a little bit about that, about what was, I guess, what was that process like for you when you say that we're our physical appearance is not permanent?
So it's the physical appearance is not permanent, but nothing is really permanent about our personality, our body, ourselves. Our cells are always renewing, and we're different physically day to day in so many ways, and that affects our appearance. And so many people from childhood start to identify with how they look, how they look, but it's really how others see them, how they think others see them.
Hmm.
And that's not even real.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's like once
yeah.
you realize like that's just an idea that I have in my mind and everything
Hmm.
keeps changing and that's not really who I am. That's not even real.
Yeah.
So does that make sense? It's kind
To
of
absolutely, yeah, for sure. In fact, I want to talk more about that when we get back from break, because when I read your article, I I had known your story, but not really. And so when I read your story, my first thought was, my gosh, she's such a I just know you as a beautiful soul. And so I look from the inside out, right? And which is, I think, what we do a lot of times for other people. I can look from the inside out. And what
yeah.
I've learned for myself is to look from the inside out. And so when I read your story, I was like, boy, I said, I understand, and I empathize with it and I associate with it because I've gone through this, I've been through something similar, but it was like I just see you so beautiful. I was like, boy, I just assumed you did too, you
Oh,
know? And so so what's so helpful is knowing that there's a process for people,
right.
right, to go
Mhm.
through. And when we get back from break, I kind of want to, I do want to talk a little bit about that process as well, because I think through your experience, you can help so many for some things that you've done, and still do on a daily basis, that has helped you see who you are, as a from the inside. So we're going to take a quick short break. When we get back, we're going to continue our conversation with Michelle. You're listening to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. Hey, welcome back to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm here with my good friend Michelle, and I want to dive right back in, Michelle, to our conversation, because it's just there's so much that I want to cover, and so much good stuff. So, in your article, you talk about the psychological piece, versus the physical piece. You separated the two. Talk to me a little bit about, for our listeners, that there's that we look different on the outside, but then all of a sudden we feel different on the inside. So take us through that a little bit.
Okay, so I in the article I think I was referring to the psychosocial difficulties that
Hmm.
I had in terms of meeting the world really with what I felt was a new face and altered appearance. Um, so being able to communicate with others and connect with others from a place of authenticity
Hmm.
rather than kind of a self consciousness where you're sort of hiding.
Hmm.
That was really the shift that took place in me. I think that I was able to connect with people before, but my experience really enhanced my ability to connect because I wasn't relying in my mind on what I thought, how I thought I appeared to them, if that
Okay.
makes sense. I was
Yeah.
able to think more about them and to be less self-conscious and more conscious of others.
Put the focus on them.
Exactly, yeah. Because I think that before I had always um, had more of a kind of reticence to even speak in public, which is I became a yoga teacher after I had my injury, which is interesting because I think I started letting some of that self consciousness fall away.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And that's that's kind of the silver lining, right? A lot of times that we, right, that we look for things, when something traumatic happens to us,
Mhm.
to turn it around and say, like, let's look at the positives. Now all of a sudden
Right.
walls are being torn down for you, right? These barriers are being torn down,
Absolutely.
it's like you're growing into this butterfly, and doing new things. Did you did you you know talk a little bit about, I know this is a process, and I think sometimes what we do is that we think we're gonna, because a lot of the times trauma like this happens in a split second, right?
Yeah.
But the healing is not a split second. The healing,
No.
right, is
Mhm.
a process. So did you slowly say to yourself, like what you just said about, okay, I'm gonna start, I need to put the focus on others because that is gonna help me rebuild. Is that something that you said you realized, you tried it, you realized that this works, this makes me
Mhm.
feel better? Can you take us through a little bit about some things that you did, and how you connected with yourself to know that this was part of the healing?
Okay, yes, that makes sense. And in the initial stages, when I was really dealing with a lot of fear and
Mhm.
distrust, like kind of distrusting my body, and I was afraid, and I didn't know, what was going to happen or how much healing I would get. In those early days, what I found comforting was meditation, and I
Mhm.
still meditate. I still find that comforting, but an ability to let my mind get quiet and open up to other possibilities, and allow the feelings, but then just sort of just detach from them a bit. So um that was part of what I used to heal. And then I also had a baby to care for at that time, so that was really beneficial for me, because that certainly takes the focus off of whatever it is you're going through, because you're involved in caring for another human being.
Mhm.
Then as time went on and I didn't get the recovery that I had hoped for, and I was finding myself in situations where I did have to be, where I was connecting with more people, and where I was finding my interest changing, and where I was really thinking that I wanted to maybe teach yoga. That was the moment when I had to really take the focus off of how I thought I appeared, if that makes sense. That was the moment when it was like, well, this isn't about what you think other people, how other people think you look. This isn't about trying to put forward some kind of perfect image. This is more about taking what's important to you in your heart and
Mhm.
connecting with others so that you can share that and also receive from them what they have to give. And
Mm.
it was the connection, I think, at that point, that got me out of myself and got me out of my, feeling sorry for myself, or feeling self-conscious, like, oh, I don't look like I
Yeah.
used to. Yeah.
Yep, yep, for sure, and that connection, I mean, that's a human need that we have. That's right, that's one of our basic human needs. So you make such an important point that if we focus on that, then that moves us forward, right? I guess too, that in a way, one of my questions that I was going to ask you was, where do you get your hope from? Like, where, because there, I just, I know that there are days when I wake up and I don't feel as hopeful, that I need
Mhm.
to kind of muster up that hope. And so you putting your focus on, how can I help others,
Right.
or what can I do to share my experience with them? Did that help heal and give you hope?
Yes, it does. It still does. And we all go through periods in our lives that are transitional,
Hmm.
because as we mentioned before, everything's always changing. So we can't escape transition. That definitely helps, thinking about how I can be of benefit. How may this benefit anything that I do? If I'm writing an article, I'm having this conversation with you, teaching a yoga private, whatever it is, how can I best be of benefit in this moment? That is something that's very empowering and inspiring. You mentioned hope, and so for me, on the deepest, most personal level, what gives me hope is, I have a strong belief that I am connected to a higher power. Not everyone has that, but I've seen in your writing that you're very spiritual, and that
Hmm.
you pray. I do
Yeah.
too. And so there, in my article, I make some references to Buddhism and yoga, and so Buddhists don't really like the word hope
Mhm.
because it's a little bit more existential, and
Okay.
I can understand why they don't, but I do have hope, and I believe that I can connect the part of me that's divine with the part, that what other people share that's the same. I believe that we're all a spark
Mhm.
of the creative source of the universe. We're
Yes.
fractals,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
We're connected to the whole, and we're all connected to each other. And so that gives me a lot of hope, that belief.
Yep.
Um,
I
yeah.
love that. I love that. Do you ever feel I always like to say this expression, do you ever feel like you're a salmon swimming upstream? And what I mean by that is when something physical happens to us, that's something that we're thrusted into. And so yes, you like for me, I feel like, okay, I'm battling a little bit while I have my internal and my external journey. And then when you settle down, because you're so right when you say we're always changing, we're fluid. But when you have that moment of fluidity where you're just, you're in your zone, right? You're in a great place spiritually, you're in a great place internally, externally. Sometimes I still feel like I'm swimming upstream because I'm bombarded by so much out there in society
Hmm.
of oh gosh, it's everything. It's whether it's internal beauty, external beauty, beliefs, right? Political views.
Hmm.
Is that uh, talk through me what you do? Is this the things that you learned, meditation, yoga, your self-talk for going through what you went through physically? Does that help you still on that daily basis of just going through life and making your life better through adding value to others?
Yes. And to answer your first question, yes, I do sometimes feel like a salmon swimming upstream, especially on the days when especially sometimes this time of year, it's darker outside. People tend to have less energy, and there's a lot of pressure to be cheerful for the holidays. But I think if I can step away from those emotions for a moment and go back within and reconnect through meditation, through yoga, and through prayer, also. If I can just take a little bit of time to do that every day, even if it's only 15 minutes, even if it's
Mhm.
only half an hour, then it gets me back on track. Yeah, and to where I feel like I could be more of benefit to others.
Awesome. And does meditation help you? Are there moments through, when we go through transition and when we grow, because you're, I think we're similar in the way that we're looking to grow daily,
Hmm.
and so you almost always feel like you're in a transition. Does that help you? Meditation and yoga help you kind of shut out the noise of the world because sometimes that's what's needed.
Yes, and that's definitely what's needed. Absolutely, it does, and
And
it's
is there something else? Do you think, is there anything like the noise of the world? Is there something that you've experienced that maybe sometimes we can't shut it out, right? Sometimes it's loud and it's there. Is there something that you've done that has helped you deal with it that way as well?
um, well, absolutely ways to get regrounded in the moment. You mean like
Hmm.
if
Yes.
you're
Yep.
experiencing something traumatic or stressful and you need to be able to function and go forward?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it has to do with it's like little mini moments of meditation, if that makes sense. Like the
Sure.
ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And breathing. Really, the breath. Only.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, breathing is important. Yeah, yeah, just something that, as as we're talking, I'm just thinking about this is that, some of the wait daily, we just, I don't know, sometimes I get caught up in it doesn't have to be something big going on in my life. It's the little moments, right? It's just the sometimes we're just off or sometimes I'm not feeling grounded. And I didn't know if you had experienced that as well, that where you're just like, okay, it's just those daily, right?
Right.
It's the regrounding,
Yes.
like
Hmm.
you said, the breathing, that
Okay. And also grounding through your senses. So, being able to take a moment and take a look around and remember where you are. Notice
Mhm.
one thing that stands out to you. It could be, um, you know, it, noticing aromas, noticing sounds, noticing where your body is in
I
space,
love that.
your feet on the floor, all of that, like orienting. You've heard about that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Actually, that's a great point. Yeah, so just letting our listeners know that, right, it's normal. It's normal every day. We could be off. Doesn't have to be a something, but again, that deals with it, inner beauty. And when we get back from break, I want to talk more about inner beauty versus external beauty, because I think that is all the things that you're saying, not only in your article, but things that you're saying now, that feeds our inner beauty, that feeds our inner beauty, right? When you can appreciate um your surroundings, right? Or taking that walk in nature,
Yes, yes. Right.
that's, yeah, right, that's part of that wonderful feeling that you get.
Yeah. So, yes, you were speaking of the stressful moments that you have when you just need something right then to feel more grounded. So, yeah, that's why just taking a moment to be thankful for your body and the
Yeah,
fact that your heart's still beating and the fact
yeah.
that you're still breathing, and to even just take 3 mindful breaths, inhale, exhale. No matter where you are, you can pretty much do that, even if you're, in a traffic jam. That's something you can always do. But the nature walk, absolutely. I am all about connecting with Mother Earth. And
Yeah,
to like
yes.
getting outside, just seeing the sky, even if it's a gray sky. Look
Yeah.
up at the clouds, notice the sky, notice the trees or if you're in the city, then even just noticing the other people around you and like, wow, we're all alive and we're not in danger right now, and to just
Yes.
consider that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. We're going to take a quick short break. When we get back, we're going to continue this because I want to dump it. I want to dive into, inner beauty versus external, and bring this all together for things that build up our inner beauty. You're listening to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. Hey, welcome back to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm here with my good friend Michelle. I want to say this, Michelle, because you said something so brilliant when we were on break. Uh, what I had, what I realized, and what I see from Michelle is that something physically changed you, and then all your growth and all your healing that you've done. To me, I see another physical change because this beauty is pouring out of you from inside out. And you said something that was so beautiful. You said this process has enabled you to connect with who you really are. So
Hmm.
it's like your light is shining, right? You're shining bright. So take us through a little bit. I always like to leave our listeners with, with something, with a how to, like what they could do to let their light shine. What are some things that you do?
Okay. I'll try to make this a little more approachable by just thinking of one day. So if you
Okay.
have one day and you have a goal set for yourself during that day to get more in touch with your true identity, say who you are beyond appearance. I think the moment that you wake up in the morning is a very important moment. And I think that so often that gets overlooked. People will wake up and immediately grab their phone and look at their emails or look at their texts, or jump right out of bed. If you can maybe give yourself a few extra minutes in the morning when you wake up to actually let yourself wake up. So even if you set your alarm 5 minutes earlier so that you can be there in your bed and just start to connect, just
Mhm.
start to notice how you feel and breathe and take a few mindful breaths, and then and notice what's in your thoughts. Like, what am I thinking about? And then um, and give yourself some love. Like, appreciate the fact that you woke up and you have another day to live. Just that first moment in the morning, being a little bit more mindful, like an extra 5 minutes or so. And that's usually doable for people. So I think that setting your day on the right, setting it on the right tone is important.
Love
Um,
that.
and then I think through your day, taking mindful moments or mindful breaks. So before you have your coffee, before you have a
Mm.
meal, if you can just take a few moments to appreciate what you're about to consume, that can be part of your spirituality by, saying a prayer of gratitude for it, or it could just be mindfulness, noticing what's in front of you, what the colors, the textures, the aroma, and allowing yourself to really take that in, to be conscious of it. And that's something that gets you more in touch with like who you are as an experiencing being,
Mm,
right?
yep.
So, when you first wake up, your meals, and then as you interact with people during the day, coworkers or family members or whoever it is, if you can take a moment also to kind of step back, almost like you're sizing someone up, like you're looking up and down, but like step back and notice, like, wow, I'm talking to my friend Dave, or whoever it might be, like, oh wow, I noticed the color of his eyes, and I
Mhm.
noticed like he's what he's wearing today, or just noticing a few things about that person, or this person looks a little sad today, or this
Mhm.
person looks like they're maybe energetic today. Just taking a moment to really get present with the being that's in front of you, whoever it is you're interacting with. Almost like you did with yourself in the morning and with your
Yeah.
meals, to really try to connect on a deeper level with those people we're interacting with, because they're our mirrors, right? We all
I love
mirror
that.
each other. So we start to get more in touch with who we are inside when we can take someone else's presence in and really,
Mm,
pay attention to the person that we're with.
I love that.
Yeah. So those are three things.
I love that. And you notice too, right? When you're focused on somebody else, it's I kind of say like, great, it's like a muscle we work. And so the more we work it, the more automatic it is that we go there. Then so much just not meaningful stuff falls away, right?
Right.
That's what I've noticed about in my life is that just like and I mean like silly, right? Just, whether we focus on, I don't know what, maybe it's gossip or we get caught up in something going on that is none of our business, or we get caught up in how we look, and we focus more on how we look than how we're behaving. All the things that I consider not as meaningful as focusing on other people and what we can do for them and what we can do for the world. But when you do things like this, like that other stuff falls away,
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
makes room for it. It makes room for it. I love that. And share with me, so identity. 'Cause identity is so important. And what are some things that you've done to let out this new identity and who you're growing into? What are some things that you could share with our listeners for discovering who you are or who you're becoming?
Okay. On the break, you mentioned journaling, so I don't want to skip that, because
Okay.
for me, writing has always been a very important part of discovering who I am, kind of more on the personality level, or who I'm,
Okay.
like what I'm doing in this incarnation, if you will. Like, why am I here? What's my purpose? What are my next steps? Writing is a beautiful tool for that, and you don't have to write for an audience. I think that having a journal is very useful, and writing by hand, and especially on the days that you're feeling very emotional, or things are there's a lot shifting for you maybe internally, just to be able to write it out, write about what you're feeling. Sometimes that could be writing a letter to a friend, sometimes that could be writing a prayer to God, or it could just be, writing a poem yourself
Yeah.
in the journal, just writing down the things just to get them out, to let the thoughts flow.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. You mentioned before when we're talking about when the actual physical change happened, not like letting that go through you. And that's still important, right? Just letting those and it's actually something you're reminding me of, something that I need to do more of. I think I hold on to emotion too long versus letting it go through me.
Okay. Hmm.
And so for you writing, that's a great, for our listeners, that journaling is huge for that, because it's literally you're getting it out there. And sometimes after I write, I don't even remember what I wrote. Like it's gone, right?
Yes,
It just feels good.
true. Yes. With the writing, and then and so you just mentioned what was it that you said? Oh, letting the emotions flow through you and
Hmm.
letting, the whatever different types of worrying thoughts or whatever it could be that you feel is bogging you down and you want to release it. Writing's a good way to release it. So you wouldn't necessarily associate that release with meditation, but the
Hmm.
reason that meditation is helpful is because you start to come back to your witness consciousness or your mind that's sort of like your neutral witness where you can step back from your thoughts and your emotions and you can have compassion for yourself. You can allow yourself to feel and think everything. But your meditation is a set amount of time where you are just holding space for yourself, really. You're allowing all those things to be where they are. And then when you allow them, they can more easily leave, if
I
that
love
makes sense.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure. Cause it's for me, one of those things that when I hold on to those emotions, that additional self-talk starts to happen and it
Mm-hmm.
starts to, right? That's when when things start to run away with my thoughts run away with. And again, then too, we focus on then now I'm focusing more on me, which is that whole external internal, right, versus external versus internal beauty, and I want to talk about that as well. But again, it's letting those emotions flow, putting the focus on other people, what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
how we're serving the world, and then that way that we start to build up that internal beauty. We're going to take a quick short break, come back for our last segment because I want to talk about something that you brought up in your article. You talked about vulnerability, and I think that's so important because that's been life changing for me, and I want to share that with our listeners because I love when they get to have life changing uh, events as well. So you are listening to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. Hey, welcome back to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. We're diving into our last segment, and I love this, and I want Michelle to talk about it more because vulnerability, and you said it best, vulnerability and trust go together. So share with our listeners what is vulnerability and why is it important for us to start being more vulnerable?
Okay, well, what vulnerability is to me is the ability to relate to others from a
Mm,
place of authenticity and instead of relying on an external facade that we've built up. Because we build up this mask or external facade that we wear around for our interactions with other people. And it's okay. Sometimes you have to relate from that place because of reality, because of business, or because of whatever. You're not always going to just be sharing your most vulnerable thoughts with people. But I think that just being able to be vulnerable in your life is um, you know, it's an act of courage and it's trusting yourself and it's trusting the world really and trusting other humans. And there's a lot of emphasis on that now, in our culture to try to let go of
mhm,
the need to always appear indestructible. We were talking
mhm.
about, being indestructible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
also from um, what you said before as well as when you what I found with vulnerability is I'm being vulnerable, and it really I think well, what's happened for me is I what people think of me is even is really less. Like it drops away. Where but it's funny when I have that hard shell, when I have that indestructible attitude, I really do care then what people think. And I, so so I get it. Like I'm with you. Like I feel so much more connected to another human being. Uh, and it's not, I want to throw this out there for discussion is it's not weakness. It's
It's
not,
not weakness. No,
no, right?
no, it's strength.
Yeah. 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 And it feels so good. Like when you can, y- you and I said this on break, it's like that raw, it's that rawness. And like what you called it authenticity. It's that, it's just, it starts to, your light starts to shine. Like you said, it can't help but shine. And that then helps you find your identity, right? It finds out who you really are.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think this is what we were talking about on break. And I mentioned that all of these things that we have that occur in our lives, the phenomena that occur, like, sometimes we have illnesses or we have loss or, we have failure and we have to, those things occur and they start to chip away at that external facade that we've built. And so what I was saying on the break is that as we start to get those cracks in the exterior, the light from within us has no choice but to shine through.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so there's that famous quote, "The cracks are what lets the light shine through." Is that Leonard Cohen? So I don't want to misquote or like
I'll
attribute.
have to look it up. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, but the cracks are the way that the light gets. The cracks let the light shine through and let the light in. Um,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah. Totally. Um, I was saying that I was just having this conversation with a girlfriend that I think we need to be aware and be careful is that I know that there, right? I mean, I know you had moments of having to be strong. Like you said in the beginning, you had a baby to take care of. So
Hmm.
you have to get up. And I know that those are the moments that get us through. But sometimes we can create that facade, that mask
Hmm.
of right of being indestructible. Like I have this, I could do this, I don't need help, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then that leads to a host of other problems. But just because you've been so eloquent about this, what's can you give me some can you give us some examples of being vulnerable? Like in day-to-day stuff, can you give us, because I think vulnerability, it's interesting. I had a coach once call me out on this and she said to me, you need to be more vulnerable. And I was like, well, how do I do that?
Examples. So, I think being able to talk about being able to talk about your emotions is
Mhm.
certainly a way that
I love that.
is vulnerable. When someone asks, "How are you today?" to actually tell them, "Well, I'm a little sad today because for whatever reason, someone in your family is sick or whatever it might be." To be able to actually connect with how you're feeling and share it with other people that's being vulnerable, but also it's encouraging. It encourages them because then they realize, they're not alone and it's not, we're not all just walking around with those hard shells and "I'm great. How are you today? I'm also great." And go team. Like
Yeah.
sometimes
Yes.
that's the way it is, but most of the time that's not the way it is. Like we all struggle. So being
Sure.
able to share your own struggles and your own emotions with others.
It's breaking down that you're not perfect, right? We're not
Right.
perfect.
Yeah.
I heard a story over the weekend where there was this gentleman who had gone out to minister to thousands and thousands of people, and the long story short was is that he didn't connect with anybody because everyone thought he was indestructible. He never
Okay.
showed emotion, and so we
Right.
get caught up right in I think we're a little detached from our emotions, or we don't want to show them, and we want people to think that we have it all together when I we can relate to each other. That was something that you being so vulnerable in this article, it made me it made me want more of you. Like it made me, I was like, it just made want, to make that connection, to have that relationship. So it's spot on. I
That's
don't mean
really
to put
sweet. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I
I don't
appreciate
mean to put you
that.
on the spot. Before we wrap up, is there anything you wanna leave our listeners with? What's something that, you have so many nuggets of wisdom, and I wish we had 5 hours to talk to you, but is there anything that you, wanna leave our listeners with to help them deal with inner and external beauty?
Yes, and that is that we're not really separate. We think that we're separate identities and we're out there kind of like struggling against each other and competing, but at the heart of everything, we are, I share part of my identity with you.
Yeah,
We're all growing together. So you connecting with me today is making this a collective experience. And,
yeah.
it's that we're not alone in our struggles. They're not just ours. We're all growing together. So it's just that you're not alone. No,
I
no
love
one,
that.
no one's really alone.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And I can't wait for more. Michelle's going to pursue her passion, her
Mhm.
next, I call it the next chapter of writing. So I cannot wait to read more pieces from you. And everybody, please go to elephantjournal.com. Or if not, find you on Facebook because this article is a must.
Yeah, you can follow my Michelle Huff Yoga on Facebook if you want to stay in contact. That's good. And
Yeah, for sure. To see what you're writing. So thank you so much for being here with me today. And
thank you,
it
Jen.
just was a huge treat. And I have to say I've grown tremendously by what you said. And in fact, I was thinking about stuff today that even if I'm flitting around the house doing chores, I will I kind of like hone in on what's going on in my brain and in my heart. So thank you for that. And thank you for being such an
Thank you,
inspiration.
Jen. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Thrive by Gen Radio on Transformation Talk Radio. We'll see everybody next week.
Thank you for listening to Thrive by Gen Radio on transformationtalkradio.com. Tune in live each Monday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, as Jen shares the action steps and real stories from people throughout the country that will ignite you to stand in confidence, love from within, and be unstoppable at fulfilling your dreams. For more information, podcast downloads, and to connect with Jen, visit jenniferzellup.com.